Shiva, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Shiva. Explain about yourself.
Good morning, sir. I am Shiva Prasann. I completed my diploma in God Polytechnic Masterplan with an aggregate of 8.7 CGPA. I completed my graduation under University in a stream of throughout my academic journey. I have gained proficiency in Java, SQL, HTML, CSS, servlets, Spring Boot. As a part of my academics, I have done several projects that gave me a hands-on experience on the above skills. Like I have done a Safe Journey project, which is focusing on the women's safety, where women can register to my portal and add the emergency context whenever she feels unsafe or unsecure. And whenever she clicks the start tracking button, the information of her where she is will be shared to the emergency contacts. Whenever she feels safe, then she will stop the tracking button. Mainly, I have used the technologies like Spring Boot for a backend and also database SQL and UI like React. And other project I have done is eSaver project, which is focusing on the healthcare mainly.
So, in your first project, you used the
Spring Boot, sir.
Spring Boot
with React.
Yes, okay. So tell me, Spring Boot, what are the annotations you used?
Mainly the annotations I used in the Spring Boot. First we comes to the controller, the REST controller I used mainly. It is a combination of the of controller and the response body.
What is the difference between controller versus REST controller?
REST controller mainly returns JSON format, means text data, string, it returns a string. But when it comes to the of controller, it returns the UI pages mainly, JSP or HTML pages mainly. And
if I want to create a web application, which annotation is helpful? If I want to create a REST service, which one is helpful?
Mainly, if you want to create a directly HTML page to return the HTML page or UI page, I will go for the of controller. When it comes to I want to return a string or a JSON format, I go for a of REST controller.
So explain about configuration and bean.
Of configuration says that for a third-party application, the Spring container will not create a bean. So we write a of configuration. In that, we manually create a bean. So that Spring container we are saying that this configuration as a bean, we are saying to Spring to handle it.
Okay. So bean can I use for classes or is it only for methods?
Mainly bean is used for only the methods mainly. The type is singleton mainly.
Okay, explain about singleton.
Singleton is that if our requirement is to instantiate object for all application, for an application we want to use the same object for many times, then we go for a singleton mainly.
Okay, so
like example we can use servlets mainly.
Okay.
For init we create object once, and for a service one object only we call many times mainly.
So how to create a singleton object?
Singleton mainly object is created like we give directly in XML in the bean configuration prototype, like we give like that.
Okay.
Default scope of.
So what is the difference between singleton and prototype then?
Previously, the singleton is the creating object for a whole application for one time only, sir. Bean has a default of singleton mainly.
Okay, prototype?
Yeah, no ideas.
No idea. Okay. So explain about IOC.
IOC is an inversion of control mainly. Instead of we creating an object, Spring container creating an object is a concept of IOC. Mainly dependency in that we have a dependency injection, sir. Dependency injection is the flavor of the IOC mainly. Means gluing together the application classes, but the classes should be independent of each other. Means it should be loosely coupled, sir, mainly.
Okay. Explain about setter injection versus constructor injection.
Setter injection is that we mostly use the setters and getters mainly to create a setter injection. But when it comes to the constructor injection, we don't use setters and getters, and want to change the data whenever in the middle of the application, we go for a setter and getters mainly. If we don't want to change the data while we go for a constructor injection.
So which one is lazy loading here?
Which one is
lazy loading? Who is lazy and who is active? While creating an object, who is loading?
While creating an object, constructor injection.
Okay, so constructor injection is a early loading, so setter injection is a lazy loading. Yeah. Okay, so explain about thin client. Do you have any idea about it? Did you get a chance to work with the thin client?
No, sir. Currently, I'm working on it, sir.
Okay, so which microservices you are using?
Mainly, have the microservices is that mainly in an application, if you want to divide the service, mainly I work on the microservices synchronous, sir, mainly.
Okay.
At the rate of we use the REST template web client in that, sir, mainly.
Okay, explain about REST template. Which method you used for communicating?
Like REST template is a deprecated, sir. Mainly nowadays we are not using that.
Which one you used then?
Web client and OpenFins, I mean. Currently I'm working on it.
Okay. Tell me, if you want to create a table directly in the database, what are the annotations you need to use?
If you want to create mainly I use the rate of entity annotations are mainly.
Okay.
At the rate of entity annotation says that Spring that to create a table for this class SQL database mainly. And also at the rate of ID I use annotation to mark it as a primary key for a
Okay.
column it marks as
So
a
if I want to join two tables by using annotations, which annotation we need to use?
mainly we go for the custom queries, sir. Mainly we at the rate of query we use so to write a
That is for custom query. If I want to join from one table to another table,
we use the annotations like at the rate of one to many and many, sir.
okay, there
To
we
join.
use at the rate join column also.
While also we do, if you are doing writing a at the rate of one to many and at the rate of many to one in two classes, we get a recursive error, sir. To avoid that, we go for at the rate of JSON ignore mainly.
Great. So you mentioned in your application, do you have some security, right?
Yes, sir.
How you are achieving security in your application?
Mainly in my application, Safe Journey application, I have mainly everyone will provide the authentication authorization.
Explain
Beyond
about
this,
the difference between authentication, authorization, JWT.
mainly authentication is that whether the username and password I have checked is authenticated or not, valid or not.
Okay.
Authorization is that the authenticated user having what type of permissions in my application and by using the authorization. Beyond this, I want to provide some more security for my application. Then I went for a JWT token, stateless, sir, mainly.
What is the difference between stateless versus stateful?
Stateless is the concept where user information will not be stored in the mainly. We are stored in the client side mainly. Stateful is that we are storing the session mainly, like servlets. We are using the HTTP session mainly to store the user details in the session mainly. It falls more load on the application, sir. So we go for a stateless, which is a JW token, where it has three parts, sir, mainly header, payload, and signature. Header as a which algorithm we are using. HS256 algorithm we are using for generating the JW token, sir.
Okay.
Where payload as a user information mainly, username like email, and also secret keys are mainly payload.
Okay. So
Signature.
tell me security filter chain.
Security filter chain. Mainly security filter chain acts like security guard for my application, sir. Whenever it comes from my Postman or UI, first it goes to the security filter chain. Again, in security filter chain, see, I have disabled the CSRF, sir, mainly. I have checked whether the request is a public or private, sir, mainly. If the request is a public, like login or register, I have directly sent to a controller, sir. Secure request. Validation happened, the request comes, then it is a secure request. Then I have sent it to the JWT filter, sir. In the JWT filter, I have checked whether the token is having the starting characters of bearer or not. If it has a bearer, I remove the bearer and check the external email or username from the token, sir. I have checked whether this email
What
or
is salting?
mainly in my project I have used hashing, sir. Instead of showing the plain password, I have used the hashing, where inbuilt it has a
Using
salt. It has VCrypt password encoder mainly. It encodes the password mainly and stores in the DB. Again, the decode is not possible with these algorithms, sir, mainly. Whenever the user wants to log in again, then I have extracted the salt from the DB password, hashed password.
Okay.
Then I have converted, again encrypted with the salt to a login password. Then I use the matches method, whether these two passwords are equal or not.
Okay. So if multiple users having the same password, it is going to changing that. It's going to be provided as a unique password.
Unique
right?
password, sir.
So
This
great.
is the salt mainly.
Okay. So tell me something which is related to Stream API.
Stream API. Mainly to process in the collections, if you want to process that list in a function manner, then we go for a Stream API mainly. We have some methods like map and also.
Explain about differences between map and flat map.
Mainly map is used to take the single element and return the single element, whereas a flat map takes the single element and returns the multiple elements, are mainly flat map.
Okay. So what map can expect?
Map can expect a functions, are mainly. It expects a functions and returns one value. Sir.
What about filter?
Filter it is a predicate, sir, mainly. It expects one value and returns a boolean, sir.
Okay. What is the predicate inside method?
We have a test, sir, mainly test method which takes input and returns boolean, sir.
Okay. So tell me which is related to transactional.
Transactional, mainly in my application I use transactional. It says that whether the transaction should be happened completely or reverted back to the, and it goes back to the again first, sir, mainly. Means if a person is sending money to the other person, the money is debited first A person but is not credited to the B person, then again it will be, if it is not happening, it is not falling to a B person, then it will revert back to the again A person, sir, mainly. Either it should be completely successful or revert back to again first. So goes back to first.
Explain about callback. Promise, any idea?
No.
Okay. So tell me which is related to joins.
Mainly, if we want to join the output of a two tables, then we go for a join, sir. Mainly, we have a inner join, left join, and right join, and self join, sir. Mainly, if you want,
Explain about self join.
if my requirement is to join the, then we go for a self join, sir. Same table.
Okay, so what are the DDL, DML commands?
DDL, data definition language, sir. Mainly, when we are, it is structure of the table mainly to create a table, to update a table, and truncate. Like we have examples like truncate, drop. Mainly, it works on the structure of a table. Whereas DML is that inside the table, what we have data, like to work on that, we go for a DML mainly. Insert the data into a table and delete the data in a table or update data in a table. Then we go for a DML, sir.
Okay, so great. What is the layered architecture in MVC?
Yes, sir. Mainly in my serverless projects, I used the model beyond controller, sir. Mainly, model is a control, which is a controller, which is used for mapping the UI and also backend mainly. So I use the servlets mainly. And
Servlets. Explain about servlet lifecycle.
in the servlet lifecycle, we have an instantiation in it and a service and destroy, sir. Mainly,
What is the difference between servlet and JSP?
servlet is a JSP is a UI page, sir. Mainly, instead of using the HTML page, we want to work on it. We want to create a dynamic web page. Then we go for a JSP page, sir. Mainly.
What about React hooks? No idea. So explain the differences between var, let, const.
Mainly in a JavaScript, we have a var, let, and const. To define the scope of variable, we go for a var, let, and const. Var is a mainly block scopes, are mainly outside of the block we can access the by using the var. But when it comes to let, we can access only inside the blocks. Const also same, inside the block only we can access. But when it comes to the function for var, let, and const, we can the scope of the function is inside the blocks only, sir. Mainly.
Can I redeclare let?
We cannot redeclare the.
Are you sure? So can I reassign for const?
No, we can't reassign for the const, sir. Mainly.
Okay.
Const is a
check for
fixed
let
value.
Okay, great. So good job. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.